A few or not many yet, okay. All right, let's go ahead and get started then. We're at 12:30. We've got about a half hour. So welcome to another one of our tool talks. This one's going to discuss ArcGIS Image for ArcGIS Online. And like most of these things, it's pretty informal. So if you have questions as we go along or I missed something, just holler and we'll take a look and try to address it then. So this particular tool talk is going to focus on a piece of software that's now available in ArcGIS Online as software as a service. It really extends ArcGIS Online users of that platform to host, analyze, and stream imagery and raster collections. So, you know, for the previous years, we've really been able to do a lot of vector data. And on the raster side, all you could create was a tile cache and get a picture of raster data, and you couldn't access the pixels. And so this expands that portion of the platform to include data management, visualization, analysis in this hosted environment. So that's a friendly addition for the users of ArcGIS Online who want to take you know, a lot of raster stuff online and get at the pixels as opposed to just a picture of the data. You can still create a cache tile layer, but you have more options now. So this is only recent, right? This year. So we participated in a pilot in the spring, did some testing when they opened up ArcGIS Image for ArcGIS Online to the academic site license. In the summer, they added it to our educational institutional agreement, so it became available across the institution. And then, you know, for the past 20 years plus, you know, we've used the desktop and server environment to do all of this. And this is our first opportunity to look at, you know, maybe taking some of these services, what we do for aerial imagery and other rasters, to a hosted environment. So I am as much in an evaluation and testing phase as maybe some other folks who are getting into this to see if it's going to be a viable option to, you know, change workflow after 20 years. So we'll see how it goes. But it is an option that's available now. In terms of licensing, on the scholarly research and teaching portal, as members join, they're granted, well, right now I grant them access to this extension on the business and operations portal that we have. Right now it's not automatic. So if anybody online is from facilities or the net team or anybody else who's using the admin and business operation portals will need to go in and get you access to this. But yeah, it's available to everybody who's using the research and teaching portal. So this functionality you can access in a few different ways. And two of them, probably the most common if you're going to publish imagery, is through the web browser environment. So if you sign in to ArcGIS Online and our portal, there's a new item in the new item list called Imagery Layer, which didn't exist, you know, earlier this year. You just had that option for tile layer, you'll see there. So Imagery Layer is a new item that you can choose to create new item types in ArcGIS Online. You can also get to this from ArcGIS Pro, and we'll show that as one of the ribbons there. So you can, if you create Mosaic data sets in ArcGIS Pro on the desktop and you want to publish them to the host environment, you can do that. If you have individual rasters or collections of rasters, you can do that. And then additionally, you know, through their APIs and other development opportunities, you can get to these layers as well. These are probably two most common for if you're going to be publishing data and you work with data. If you're a pro user, or if you are someone who's just using the online environment and want to upload collections of image or individual images, you can do so that way. So the basic steps to do this, you come in and choose a layer type, which we'll look at. There's 2 to choose from at this point. Under a different layer type, you have a couple different layer configurations that you can choose. You select your set of imagery, you create little to no documentation by default that's required, and publish these data out there. And depending on the choices we make, different processes happen in the background. Essentially, the images are created to a cloud raster format. And then if you're mosaicing a bunch of them, they're doing that in the background. Or if you're retaining individual tiles, different processes happen in the background. But that's a process that's going on behind the scenes as we create these. But it's a fairly short workflow to take an image or a set of images and post them up to this hosted environment. So on layer types, there's going to be these 2 options. There's going to be a tiled option and what they label as a dynamic option. And the tiled option right now is one distinction is that you can share this with everyone, whereas the second option, the dynamic right now, is only able to be shared at the organization level. It requires a little more storage and a little more processing. The tiled option, I think, is probably the best at this point, unless you really need to retain every item at a collection level where you retain overlaps or that type of thing. If you just want to create a mosaic, a tiled option is great, and you can get at the pixel data, and that's a good way to go. So you'll be able to choose one of 2 layer types, tiled or dynamic. Those choices then dictate, right now how you can share it, or some other options that you can do there. So once you choose like tiled, you choose a configuration. Like if you just have a single image, you can do that. If you want to create a mosaic image, against a bunch of items that you have, or if you have some time series of data stacked up and you want to create one layer for every different date, you can choose to do that, depending on how you want to publish them. On the dynamic side of things, again, that can only be shared at the organization level right now. And then you have a few different options in there. This imagery collection is, the one where you could get at every individual item that's in there. This is what we currently use, where we publish to our on-premises. And it allows you to retain, individual areas of overlap and that type of thing, if that's important. So there's some choices to make there. And we'll go through one of these, just a tiled, and do a small one, and you can get a look at it. So it's a pretty quick workflow. On resources, we send this out to everybody. There's a pretty good getting started, resource out there, some videos on publishing a tiled or publishing a dynamic, why you might choose one or the other. And then the blogs that are out there that they have related to ArcGIS Image for ArcGIS Online. Now, this product stays in step with their other products, where it's getting quarterly updates. And so the most recent update was in November, where they added support for like Landsat 9, and they've added support for multi-dimensional rasters like NetCDF. So each quarter, this is getting updated, just like another product. If you're just interested in this one and want to see what updates have been made, that'll be released every quarter. Okay, so let's just take a look at kind of some of the items that I've already created, and then we'll do one and take a look at that kind of workflow. If you're an ArcGIS Pro user and you just have an image out there, on your imagery tab, once you're signed in with your credentials at the UI, this share button becomes enabled, called Create Hosted Imagery. So this is the geoprocessing tool that you would use to publish data sets out of Pro here up to ArcGIS Online to make them hosted layers. And you have those options here. We talked about choose your layer type, and then underneath there, choose the configuration that you'll use and how you want to have this layer available or these data available on ArcGIS Online. But that's how you get to it. A couple steps to get through it and post it up there. Once you do end up posting it while we're here in ArcGIS Online, or while we're here in ArcGIS Pro, I have some data sets that I've already posted out there. And so if I look in some of the data sets I did for the tool talk, like other items in ArcGIS Online, you can access ones that are restricted just to you, or available to a group, or available across our organization, or available to everyone, right? So once I publish an item here, that becomes accessible across you know, a variety of devices. If I wanted to get to this now through a mobile device or something, I could do that. Or if I want to stick it in a web application, I could do that, that type of thing. So you'll see that once we're able to publish that, and we are able to access it, we can do a little bit with it, you know, in terms of displaying it and do geoprocessing on that hosted item. And you can see some of your options change up here for like imagery service layer. Now it recognizes this is a tiled layer, and you know, we can change band combinations and all the things you can do with imagery services that are out there and available. The icons are slightly different for the tiled here. You'll see it kind of looks like a little tile pulled out, and this one's a dynamic collection, and it looks like the traditional image service that's out there. Now, under the type, you'll see how it's called. If you hover it here, it's called tiled imagery layer hosted, which makes a lot of sense when you're publishing where you call it tiled. They've waffled between just imagery layer. This isn't called dynamic imagery layer, so the terminology is just a little different, but an imagery layer is a dynamic imagery layer now in the hosted environment. So the terminology on the type, they don't use that word dynamic when they present it here, but during the publishing process, you either choose dynamic or tiled. So that's what we're doing in ArcGIS Pro. We can access it across the web, and we can publish from here using that create hosted imagery tool that's available. So that's if you're a pro user. If you're a desktop user, or excuse me, if you're just in the web browser and want to work in that fashion, I've published some out here just for this tool talk, and you can see how they're listed as tiled imagery layer or imagery layer, again, which is that dynamic one, and we can access. But to create our own and to publish a new one, when you go under my content here, under new items, you will see that imagery layer is a new item type that we have access to now since it was added to our site license. And this is going to give you a similar set of options that we see in ArcGIS Pro of what type of imagery layer you'd like to publish. By default, tiled is selected, and they're encouraging people to go that direction unless you really need to support collections, managing collections of imagery. But these will dictate what the subsequent screens look like. Here, if we want to just upload a single image to create one layer, if we have, you know, we want to mosaic ones together, or if we want to create multiple imagery layers when we upload like 5 of them for 5 different years, that type of thing. So in our case, I just have one small image here, what we would do. And then On some of these, depending on your selections you make on the previous screen, you might get a drop down here to say it's Landsat 7 or Landsat 9 or a NetCDF or some other format. In this case, I'll just drag a couple of little images over here, and it's going to upload those images and gives you a status bar there to let you know what it's uploading. And then on the next button, it'll start to create metadata, just basically the title of that image layer in there. If you want to add tags in a summary and that type of thing, you can do that. And then the uploading of images happens and it begins creating that tiled layer based on your choices. So it might be mosaicing them together if you made that choice, or creating layers for a bunch of different images that you might have put in there. If you're doing a big data set, and at this point, they say you can navigate away and go work on other stuff while this does its work in the background. I found it to be pretty responsive. It seems like in depending on how many people are on that hosted environment and working, I don't have a real sense for how long it takes per gig or anything like that at this point to create these. So we'll have to see. In the last release, it said, performance and enhancements, that kind of thing. So I think my sense to some extent is they're still learning too about this. But so we end up getting this item type tiled imagery layer, and we could, share it with folks now or do other things, or we could just open it up in, the map viewer, or access it from different places like ArcGIS Pro or a mobile device or that type of thing. So here's the little image that we published out there and have available now in ArcGIS Online as this tiled item that can be shared. And some of those other ones, the example here is this is just a 4-band image, but some of those other examples that I had out here were some elevation data you could do this with as well, right? So here is a digital surface model that we uploaded, and very similar. We could, just visualize it and look at it as like a shaded relief, and work with elevation data as well up here once we make it available. What else did I add up here? The one thing I wanted to show on, let me see if I can show the dynamic real quick. Right here, let's see how that does. Okay, so here's the dynamic. This is actually 4 tiles. If you're familiar with nape data, it's just 4 tiles. But if you look at the difference in this one, behind it, if you look at the table here, I can make it big enough. You'll retain every individual image in there, information about every single image that's in there. So here, when I loaded this up as a collection, in the dynamic version, you can get it metadata for every single image, right? In the tiled version, you can. It's just one mosaic image. So that's one of the big distinctions here between those two. This looks looks exactly like a mosaic data set that we create now and publish to an on-premises ArcGIS server. This is the exact same as an imagery layer on Arc server, which is what's happening in the background. Another one on, I'll just show an example of maybe, where's the, well, let me go back and open a blank one real quick with the NetCDF one, just to show you what that looks like. if you work with those data. So in here, I just grabbed a sample data set, and in this case, it only has one variable in here, but they would be listed if we had a bunch. And you can work through as you saw there, the different time dimensions and stuff to work with it in the web browser here, or in any of your other devices. So it'll display different variables and different pieces of how the NetCDF or the multidimensional data are organized. So that's kind of the publishing process for these and the way to access and get at these. The one other piece that certainly you can do in ArcGIS Pro on these now is to use geoprocessing tools against the hosted layer, right? And they've added some of that functionality to the web browser as well. Although right now, they say this will be addressed in the next release in like February. To get to any of the online analysis tools for raster, you have to use their classic map viewer. Right now, it's not in their new map viewer. So if you did have a class or students right now and you wanted to do some online exercise with using some of the analysis tools in here, this analysis button is only in the classic. So if you're reading through their documentation, you're wondering, how do I get to analysis? It's only in that classic viewer. Hopefully until February, it'll be in that new viewer that's out by default. But if you have a raster, they've now added raster analysis in the browser, if that's helpful for you. So if you want to create some slope or aspect in the browser from elevation data, or you want to use some of their different, albeit a subset of all the tools that are in something like Arc Pro, you can get to them here from that classic web viewer here. So just kind of be aware of that before next year, where hopefully that'll be in their default map viewer as they migrate the analysis capabilities over there. But they are here in the default viewer for extracting pieces of this, or other types of things like that. The one other thing they added recently too is and there's been a big call for this, I think, out there for people working with software on a mobile device, like maybe they're working with field maps in a disconnected environment. You can take these off as tile caches now to the disconnected environment much more easily. So that was something that was added in November too, to be able to grab pieces of these to take in the field if you're not online. So it's somewhat of work in progress. It's brand new. I'm testing it out. I think like other people are doing. It's nice to see rasters, get a seat at the table in ArcGIS Online, where before we couldn't do a lot. With getting at the pixel data, we could certainly display it, but we'll see, going forward, what kind of impact that has. If you have large collections of imagery at this point, don't worry about how big and how much we use. They're encouraging education to force, ArcGIS Online to do what you need and see how it performs and address issues should they come up. So if we've got, many gigs of stuff, give it a try, mosaic it, share it with classes, have folks do exercises in that environment. Which could be very handy. We see more and more people on Macs who don't can't get to Arc Pro, and if you can do things in the web environment that teach GIS concepts and raster concepts, then there's some nice advantages there. So I got 5 minutes left on the time, so I don't keep you over. Does anybody have any questions there? I want to make sure I don't go over, but does anybody online or here have any questions about that new functionality that's available there?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when you say publish a map for the web, something that's publicly accessible, are those analysis tools available for that, or are they only available if you're like a logged in user? Like if you wanted to query a point, or I don't know, maybe like draw a box and get an average or something.
Yeah, I think probably the identifying ones are. I don't know about, I would suspect that the ones like extracting and those other raster tools you pointed out are probably within an organizational site license, although I'd have to confirm that.
Okay.
But I think you could certainly select a point and get a pixel value from an imagery layer. But the ability to do much processing is probably going to be under organizational license, although I don't know. It'd be interesting to try their Python tools or a notebook, or just see what you could do with the signed in. I'll have to give that a try.
Bruce, you mentioned, go ahead and don't worry about how large the data is. Are there practical limits though? Like if we have giant, net CDFs or other files that are closer to terabytes in size?
Yeah.
Is that problematic?
Probably, although I don't know, like for some of the statewide collections we have, I haven't tried publishing anything really sizable. So I don't have any real data to go on. I think it would kind of be, let's give it a shot and see what we can do. Because if they're encouraging us to move away from the hosted environment, or excuse me, the on-premises environment, yeah, publishing a statewide data set seems cumbersome right now in this fashion. So it sounds good in theory. In practice, yeah, I'm not sure how well it'll work.
Right.
Certainly be a little worried about that. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I haven't done anything real sizable here with this yet.
Yeah, with the Mosaic, I was thinking it'd be interesting to try, like, collect some drone imagery and upload it and see how it handled, I don't know, a fair bit, few hundred images or
Yeah.
up to 1,000 images, and
Yeah.
see how that works. When it mosaics, is it doing it based on the GPS of individual rasters, or is it actually looking at pixels and trying to align pixels?
I think it's doing it on the spatial reference system of the data. And then I'd have to look and see, if you wanted to do something other than a certain type of mosaic method, if you need to choose that in something like Pro now, when you create a mosaic data set and you're going to do bilinear, nearest neighbor, cubic. I don't know if all that's in the browser yet. I'd have to look at that. Yeah, I don't know exactly for how it's choosing if, which one gets put on top in a mosaic and that kind of thing. I suspect if you did it as a mosaic data set and enforced it from there, it would take that information into account, but
there's high overlap.
yeah,
All of that imagery, so it would be interesting to see how it made decisions. I mean, we have tons of drone imagery, so we could always just throw it at this and see how it did. Report back like this was the experience.
Yeah.
In case other people were curious.
I think they'd welcome that we kind of test form type of thing on big stuff, and maybe they've done some of it, but it'd be interesting for us to take some sizable collections and see if it does work. To the best of my knowledge here, we haven't tested it in any big way since it's only recently that we've gotten access to it. So I've just done kind of test stuff and 4-8 images or something and that type of thing. So yeah, it'd be interesting to do some things and see how it works. And then also like responsiveness, like you kind of, bounce it against your cloud optimized GeoTIFF and how does it respond in a, tiled service to make a request? It's likely probably yours is faster, but
Well, that'd be fun to
I don't know. It'd be
compare.
interesting to see. Because it puts a lot of power in the hands of users who go out, get drone data, put it all together, and then put it up here, share it with
Yeah,
a group of researchers or folks in the institution securely or whatever. So, yeah, so take advantage of it, give it a try.
Yeah, but Jack question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
This is kind of long. It seems the ArcGIS image has powerful image processing and deep learning capability, question mark. Is that able to perform multispectral image calibration? What's the difference between its processor in terms of image analysis capability?
That one I'm not sure about. I haven't worked with multispectral stuff very much at all. I know that's a lot of the deep learning thing, geoprocessing tools coming into ArcPro seem to be pretty powerful, but at this point, I'm not knowledgeable enough probably to answer that question very well. But we could talk after or explore some of the resources out there to see if we can find out some information on that. Yeah.
So imagine that we published, some tiled imagery layers on ArcGIS Online.
Yeah.
And we wanted to build a web application using that, right? So using an API to interact with it,
Yeah.
but then present it on our own web interface, right?
Yeah.
So that's possible.
Yep.
And can you talk a little bit about what that API would look like as far as authentication and that mechanism of, we have to identify ourselves, I assume, as an organizational user in order to access that API to get certain capabilities, but maybe not all capabilities, like some are anonymously accessible.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. So the layer itself would be available to everyone or the organization. So that item itself. And then I suspect if there's certain things you want to do, my guess is there's certain analysis you want to perform or that type of thing. It might require, to sign in, but it's certainly, if it's a publicly shared layer and you just want to use like leaflet or something to
Right.
get to it, then
Okay.
you could just, get it out there. But if you want to go deeper, it might require authenticated as you use it.
And but the API itself, the dialect it's an ArcGIS API, right? You're not using like a standardized web service for that sort of anonymous interaction, or?
I think you can use just about anything for anonymous, right? I
Okay.
mean, there's Esri's JavaScript API is out there, but I think you can get to it in a variety of different APIs.
So like
I mean,
web
it's just
map
like
service, web feature
I
service?
think so.
Okay.
Well, actually, on these, I have a question out there right now to them about, in our previous implementations on premises, you can expose it with OGC protocols. Right now, I haven't been able to find in here how you hit these services that are published in a hosted environment under any of the OGC
Okay,
protocols.
so that was my question.
But that's an actual email that's out there right now waiting for response.
Okay.
I'll let you know what I find out, but I haven't seen it, like they say, this is.
Okay, so you can use the Esri, JavaScript libraries.
Yeah.
An API. You can't use the OGC as far as you know, although you're looking into it.
Right.
So if not, so what else is there then, right?
Yeah, the Python stuff, if you want to get to it that way. You can certainly, I mean, if you want to, if someone here, wanted to build a, web application within ArcGIS Online, you could do it through any of their, non-programming tools like Experience Builder or Web App Builder. You could build your own web application in ArcGIS
Create your own
Online.
API, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So if you go in Experience Builder, create an area for a map, drag, drop, pull stuff around, and create a little web app that, had it in there that way. Yeah. So I think they're, on that last slide, one place might, to look might be down here. I think they've got some of the, I don't know, do they have developer stuff down here? Yeah, this whole thing maybe, would help, on the additional resources or the developer tools for that might be helpful to take a look at.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else online? Nobody? Okay, I think that's it. Give it a try or let me know if you have questions, certainly. And I'll be trying it out as well with different data sets we have. So thank you.